So hopefully this little task will allow you to explore exponents and powers, indices a little bit more, and work with the rules that we have established. So if you get a little bit stuck with some of these, remember the key is always look at the rules and they'll tell you what to do. So let's look a little bit closer and see how we can get started with this first question. So first things first, all of these rules need to be written down somewhere in your workbook. They should already be there. Okay, so we know that when we're timesing by the same base, we add the powers. Dividing by the same base, we subtract. A power to a power, we multiply. We went through and explained how all of these rules came to be. So now what we're wanting to do is try and use them. Okay, so we look at our rule that we have here, or the expression, I guess, that they're asking you to simplify. And even though it's not written there, we know that in between all of these is technically a times. We're very lazy, we mathematicians, and we don't want to write all of those in. We just expect everybody to know that they're there. And the rule is that we can now multiply in any order that we want, because everything is multiplying here. So what we're allowed to do is we can put the -7 and the -4, they're sort of the same sort of thing, almost like terms. So we can put them together. And then while we're doing this, we might as well look at the e's, and they can be grouped together. And of course, we'll do the same. We've got the k here. Are there any others? Yep. There's another one there, so it's k times k cubed. And hopefully now this is pretty straightforward to solve, because you know -7 times -4, two negatives make a positive, so that becomes 28. And then I'm going to do the same with the e's. Now when I've got an e to the cubed times an e to the squared, remember that is e cubed is e times e times e, and then I'm timesing that by e squared, which is e times e, and so we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's when you realize, I should just use this rule. When I'm timesing by the same base, I add the power, so it's e to the 5. And that's why we can't just go 5 plus a 1 here. Remember, that's technically a 1 plus 3. You can't do that because these are not the same base. So you have to then keep that separate. That is now k. And again, instead of now writing it out, k times k times k times k, we just add the power. So 1 plus 3, 4. And that's it. Well, you could even tidy that up a little bit better and go, well, we don't need those times signs there. So that is the same as 28, e to the 5, k to the 4. What do you do with that? You come back over here and you will put the 2 here and 8 here, e, what was it? Whatever the e power was, you put that here, k, and then 4. And you're done. Let's try another one. Right, so if we look at I think it's a cross, is it? Let's have a look. Yep, this one across. It's this. Remember, you don't have to, I think, know exactly what to do. You read the question and then you look at the rules and it will tell you what to do. So the big numbers, well, that hasn't changed. We still say, what is 30 divided by 15? And it was always been 2 and it always will be 2. So 30 divided by 15, we go 2. But now we look at our powers, right? The b's here, we've got b to the 5 divided by b squared. So we look at the rules, and I think it's this one here. When I'm dividing by the same base, what does it tell you to do to the powers? You take them. So this now becomes b, 5 take 2, is 3. Okay, why is that so? Remember, b to the 5 is b times b times b times b times b, and you're dividing by b squared, which is b times b, and what happens is 1b divided by that cancels, this one divided by that cancels, so that's why we're left with b cubed. So there you go. We come to our crossword and we pop in 2b3, and that 2 works with the 1 down which we got, so we know it's the right answer. So those are some of the things you'll have to do to see that you actually have the right answer. If you don't, go back and find an error. It's not a disaster, and don't give up. Go back, see if you can check your work, see if you can find a mistake. Okay, so it looks like we're starting to get a little bit tricky here, but I'll tell you a secret. It's actually an illusion, because you might think this is crazy hard, but if you break it down into separate little questions, it becomes quite simple. And remember, we've got our beautiful rules here that will tell us what to do. We just have to refer to them and follow them. So let's start. What do I mean by separate little questions? Well, if you have a look, you could actually make this section here, that little bit there, that is its own little question. Okay, 6c to the power of 5 all squared. And if we just focus on that and try and see a rule that fits it. So once again, okay, I think if we're looking at all of these rules, which one could help us solve this? Well, I think it's this one here, which is telling us basically that everything in the bracket gets the power. So the x gets the power and the y gets the power. So here I'm going to be saying 6 will get the power of 2. Now c to the power of 5 will also get that power of 2, which means I have to follow this rule here. And that says when you've got a power to a power, you have to times them. So let us just do that. So it becomes 6 squared. Now you could write, what is 6 squared? Please don't say 12. Remember 6 squared, 6 times 6. So I could have written 36, but I'll do that a little bit later. Now, follow this rule here, power to a power. So I'm going to say 5 times 2. So that becomes c 10. Now I'll just keep writing what else is there because I haven't dealt with this. So it still stays there. We do our fraction. Now I put the 9 and I think, well, hang on, can't I just do the same with this? This is another separate little problem. And I'll use the same rules that I did before, that here everything in the bracket gets the power. And when I've got a power to a power, what do I have to do? Here, times. I'm not asking you to memorize these rules, but I am asking you to follow them. So now this becomes c, 2 times 4 is 8, and d cubed to the power of 4. So once again, it's asking you to times. We go d to the 12. So far, so good. What else can we do now? Well, one of the things I can do is I can say, well, this 6 squared, we said before, that's 36. I think, well, that's enough. I'll write that. All over 9. Now, if you look at the one that we did before where we had the division, what did we do? That one before when we had 30 something over 15d, whatever, we did the numbers first. Now we do the same thing. This is what we love about maths. It stays the same. 36 divided by 9. Hope you know that's 4. And now we can do the bases. So I'm not going to do C10 divided by D12 because they're not the same base. But I have got the same base here. All right. If I look at that, I'm focusing on that one there. I can say, well, C10, c to the power of 10 divided by C8, I'm following this rule, so I subtract the power. So that now becomes C squared. And I can do the same thing with the D. I can look at that, and we can say, well, that's D to the 21 divided by D12, so we have to subtract those powers. 21 take 12, and that's 9. And once again, we go back to our crossword and we put those in. So what question was this? 6, 5. Okay, so 7 across, was it? 7 across. You go in and you put those answers in here. Now, if they don't match up with the other ones, you might have made a mistake somewhere. Okay, now, simple things can happen like 21 take 12. You might accidentally make a wrong judgment. Okay, so go back and look at that. It doesn't mean it's a total disaster. It just means you have to be a little bit more careful and check your work. As a mathematician, you are expected to do that. Now, once you've done that, and finished all of the questions, because they're all pretty much the same, we just did this question. I think if we've done that, means you can do that, and so on. So have a go. You then have to make up your own crossword. So you can start. You could take a leaf out of my book over here, and you can, instead of having -7 and 4, you could have -8 and -3. Change the letters, change the indices, and away you go. Okay, now if you had, what did I say, 8 and 3? 8 threes are 24, so once again, right, you have to come up with a 2 that starts at the beginning. So here I decided I went 30 divided by 15 because that gave me 2. You could have decided I'm going to have another power one, and you could have gone 4 times 5, that's 20, and then you make up the letters as you want. Okay, choose whatever letters you want. You could use the initials of your name, but you have to have a minimum. I had 11 questions. I need you to have at least 10, and they have to connect. They can't just, oh, sorry, I'm scanning. They have to connect like they do here. You can't just have random ones all over the place. Anyway, I hope that helped, but the main takeaway from this is make sure you have these rules that you're looking at. Some of you have your book shut and you go, well, I don't know the rules. Well, look at them. So work on that. Hope that helps.